So we're moving on smoothly with this. I've got the cowling here and the wheels, and what I want to do is use a little bit of filler to just make it really smooth. If you notice, the cowling here has a really nice rounded edge on it, but no matter what I do, I mean, perhaps if I was even more savage with the sanding, I could get this completely smooth all the way around. Right now it's pretty good, but there's just the faintest edge that comes up between the multiple layers of lamination there. And perhaps if I sanded and sanded and sanded some more, I would get away with it. But the other thing that needs to happen in any case, because this is balsa and I want to paint it, what we actually want to do, and we want to have it look like metal. You know, the real model has a metal cowling and a metal piece at the front of the plane. So we actually want it to look quite smooth. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a little bit of wood filler. This is, I picked this up at the Home Depot. It's natural, is the color, and it's nothing special. It's not modeling filler. It's just regular wood filler. Comes in this perfect size little tiny pot like this. I think you can also get Elmer's, or potentially where you are, you maybe could get something else similar. There's nothing special about it, and what I'm also going to do is the other tip that comes up with getting a really nice finish on painting on balsa is to start with. It's a multi-step process, but we'll actually start with some wood filler, just with a dab of water in it to make it a little bit runny, and actually use that to fill in, basically to fill in the grain. And we'll do that on there, we'll do that on the wheels, and we'll also do it on the part of the fuselage that I'm going to paint, which is this part at the front. Because, and I've posted the video of the real plane that I'm trying to sort of make this look like onto YouTube, and that part is going to come out red, and it's basically a red metal finish. So I really want to basically smooth out everything. So I'm going to fill in the gaps and the holes, and also the sort of make perfect the place where I had to fix my little mistake that I made, where I had to cut out the top here to get in at those screws. So I'll fix that up. I've got a little gap here. I'll fill that with the wood filler, and you won't even know that it even happened. So that's what's going to happen next. I think I'll get set up, and then I'll just give you a bit of a sneak peek of what I'm doing here with this before, without actually running you through every single step. But I know that from some of the other videos that I've seen, it actually helps if the video presenter just skips over and thinks, oh, that's easy. Well, you can always forward pass something if you don't think it's relevant to you. So I'm going to show you some real kind of finicky details about filling in this with the wood filler, and you can make your choice about whether or not you want to watch the details. So just pop this off here. It comes out, it shows up as pink, but it will dry almost exactly the same color as the wood here. It really is pretty perfect in terms of working with balsa. So all I'm going to do is basically just grab a little bit of the filler here and squeeze it around the edge here to use it to fill these gaps in the lamination, so that we end up with a perfectly round, smooth feel on that edge of the cowling before we get to the painting step, so that we can paint it that really nice red color and make it look just like the real one. Just like one version of the real one. I noticed that, you know, there's some other versions where they're silver or white on the front of the plane. Seems there was several variations that floated around back in the days of World War I, when these planes were flying, and there were some that were red, and personally I just happen to like red, so I'm going to use red because I like it. You could paint silver, like I did silver on the front of the Fokker that we're sort of working on in parallel, and that actually came out really, really nice. So I'm hoping that I can match the red. This is the biggest problem that I'm having with right now. I'm still trying to track down exactly which red paint I can use that's going to give me the red that we're going to paint on here. So what I've been doing is doing some experiments. I've actually taken a little sheet of balsa, primed it, and then put some red paint on it. Let it dry, see how it looks, compared it to the picture. Decided that, well, no, that doesn't really quite work. Let me try something different, and so I'm trying several different flavors of red, and I don't know, I'm almost getting to the point where I'm going to have to mix the colors just a touch to get that nice red that I want. We shall see how that works out, but hopefully by the time we get this to the point where we've got it all perfect and sanded and smooth and nice and rounded, that we've got a decision on which red color paint we're going to use and how that's even going to work. And I'm sure that will work out in the end. So you know, I'm being a little lavish with the wood filler here, basically trying to get all the little gaps and holes covered in, so that it ends up being a perfectly smooth finish. Of course, after I put this on, it doesn't really matter if there's a little bit of extra here, because we're going to sand it. So sanding will cover up, or, you know, basically fix any little edges or tags that are left off, and that's just fine. So we can be fairly generous with the amount of wood filler that we use to basically cover that in, to try to make to cover in all the little gaps and holes. We're basically trying to cover up the how to say, the grain on the wood, because remember, what we're trying to do is make this look like metal. So metal will be nice and smooth. Metal doesn't have a grain. So you know, the balsa has a grain, of course, as a natural wood, and that can look quite nice. And like I said, you know, you could leave this clear without doing the filling and the painting if you choose, and leave it as the plain balsa, and it really has a quite nice look to it. But we can also try to use the fact that balsa is so malleable and easy to work with, and if we fill this in, fill all the gaps in the grain, then we can end up with a nice smooth, very smooth metal-like finish to it, and that's what we're going for. That's what I'm going for in this case. So you can see that that's coming together. Actually, I'm actually going all the way around, even the planking on the edge, and putting a fine layer of this filler in there, which is covering up all the grain, as I mentioned, on the wood all the way around. And we'll see if we get away with one coat. Should be okay, but we can always do another one if we have to. And so I'm going to go all the way around and basically make that a nice smooth finish, cover all the wood grain all the way around. And then sand it back. Once I sand it, if all goes well, then I end up with a nice smooth edge and no grain at all to speak of. And the laminate part that I was concerned about here, where I saw the ridges, I can see those are all pretty much disappearing, which is exactly what I was hoping for. So I think we're pretty good with this. Just going, making sure we get everywhere, go all the way around, cover it up, and make it so we end up with a perfect smooth finish all the way around. And like I said, it's not going to be perfect once I put it on here. It might even be a little lumpy, to get it fairly smooth with the first cut, and then we'll attack it with a fine sandpaper. I'll use the 800 grain sandpaper rather than the 400, which is what I've been using so far. The shaping that I was doing was all done with the 400 grain sandpaper. I'll use the 800 grain because really it's a finishing touch here, and I'm just trying to get that smooth finish on this. So that's actually working out quite well. There we go. So we got a little bit of excess here. Just clean off the excess. I think we're pretty close to having everything we want covered. I think I've been around a couple times. Got it all fairly solidly. And yes, there is a little bit of excess dropping off onto my working board here. I put down a sheet of wax paper just to catch that, because I knew that was going to happen anyway, so I didn't mess up my cutting board. Alright, that's looking pretty nice, I think. So we can put that aside and let that dry. And I'll show you the other trick, which is what I'm going to use on the wheels and also on the fuselage. But I'm not ready to do the fuselage yet because the paint, the glue that I used to fix that little extra hatch that I had to cover in on the fuselage, that hasn't dried yet. So I'll wait. I'll be doing the same thing here, but I'll show you this other piece that I'm going to do right now. So what needs to happen is we also want to cover in the wheels here and make that so that will seem like it's metal as well. And so what we'll do is we'll actually just take a little touch, just a little bit of this wood filler here, and we'll get just a drop of water, really the merest drop. And in fact, I might as well use that all the extra bits of excess that I cleared off there, because it's still wet and usable if I put a little bit of water on it. Good thing about everything these days is it's all water based. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that in nice and tight so it doesn't dry out on me and I can use it again later. I'll just get a drop of water, put it in here, and then mix it up with a paintbrush. And then what I'm literally going to do is paint with a paintbrush the wood filler to fill in the grain on the wheels. So here we have it. You can see the paste in here. I took as you saw, I just put just a little dab of that wood filler in here, and then I went into the kitchen. I pretty much, so little water. I tried it before, and easy. If you run it out of the tap, you're going to end up with basically just a sludge in here. It'll be so watery, it'll be unusable. What you want is like a thick paste here that you can use. And to do that, what I did was twice under the tap, put the brush under the tap, got the water running, got the brush wet, mixed it, not quite enough, did it a second time, and I got it to this point where it's basically this soft mushy feel, not quite runny, but really soft. And so what we do is basically just brush the wood filler, that soft kind of, it's a bit like drywall mud really at this consistency. Brush that, and I'm brushing with the grain. I'm thinking that that's going to basically help to push the the filler into the grain of the wood. And of course after this we can sand it, so it doesn't need to be perfect, because the sanding will clean it all up. Being most careful not to get the wood filler into that hole in the middle, which is where that plastic brush sticks through, because that's where the axle, the carbon fiber axle for the undercarriage needs to come through there. So that's actually a fairly thick coating on the edge there. And what we'll do is we'll do the same thing on the other side. We'll just basically just try to paint that around the piece of plastic. There's no point in putting wood filler onto plastic, so I'm not going to take it out, because we want that basically to be around there. When I say I'm not going to take it out, I have a feeling that maybe it'd be smarter if I did take it out. No, I'm not going to take it out. It's fitted fairly tightly, so I'm just going to leave it like that. So we just run the filler around. Notice it's drying out already, and it might be necessary to go and just put another dribble of water in there, dribbling it on the brush. We'll see by the time we get to the end of the other one. But that's going actually quite nice to work with the brush. It's really easy to get it into all of the right nooks and crannies. Run it around the plastic brush without going over it. And I really don't want to get onto the edge there. Just a little bit around the edge. But again, if I go too far, I can always sand it back, so it's not really a problem if I do. And that should be that one. And then I'll do the same thing with this one. Brush on the filler. It's definitely drying out. Skip the hole. Don't go into the hole. And I'm just going to finish the other one off just like this one, but I'll stop the video now because I need to go get some water.